Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm part of the cultural services of the French Embassy, who organizes this Pictures This Festival. We have brought together like-minded authors of children's books and comics to talk about their developments and how they are the same or different on both sides of the Atlantic. It has been an honor to work with these artists, who are among the most talented bunch in Paris and in New York. For the last panel of this series, I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to invite Istvan Banyai and Antoine Guilloppé here, taking a closer look to their craft. It would not have been possible without Leonard Marcus, our moderator tonight, who has introduced me to lots of several amazing artists through his advice and his articles. Leonard is one of the most prolific critics of children's books, sitting in as a judge of the New York Times Best Illustrated Books of the Year prize for free time. Also a writer and an historian, Leonard has written 24 books about children's literature, and it has been featured on many television and radio programs to share his knowledge on children's literature, in addition to consulting for children's books exhibits across the country. It's not surprising to learn that Leonard is part of the new SVA MFA program in visual narrative that you will hear more tonight. I would like to thank the School of Visual Art for hosting this event tonight, especially Nathan and Joanne, and wishing them success for this new MFA program. We hope to carry on our collaboration on many French and American projects together. And we are also pleased to partner with the Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators and their support. And I know lots of you from SCBWA came, as we saw your lovely sketches during our latest events. On behalf of the French Embassy, we invite you to share a glass and book signing after the panel. I hope you enjoy this evening and you sign up for future events. Ladies and gentlemen, now please join me to welcome our artists and our moderator, Leonard Marcus.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you all for coming this evening. I too want to start by thanking Colombine Dupere and the French Embassy for having the great idea of giving this kind of attention to picture book artists. I think it's yet another sign that in our time the art of the children's book is being recognized as never before. And I also want to thank my colleagues here at the School of Visual Arts, Joan McCabe and Nathan Fox, who have been bringing together many illustrators for not only for this program, but for others, and with whom I look forward to working in the future as part of the new MFA program here. Here's what's going to happen this evening. Both of the illustrators who have joined us, Istvan Banyai and Antoine, are going to give 10-minute PowerPoint presentations to show you some of their work, just so that we'll all have some pictures in our heads in common in preparation for what I hope will be a lively conversation, first amongst ourselves, and then with you taking part too by asking questions and making comments. We'll be carrying on for about an hour or so, and then afterwards we will have a book signing outside and wine to go with it, and a chance for us to meet in a more casual way. So let me just begin by briefly introducing both of our artists. Whoops. I have to remember not to do that again. Sitting directly to my left is Istvan Banyai. And I'd like to read something that was written about him by Stephanie Plunkett, the curator of the Norman Rockwell Museum, which has presented a retrospective of his work in the many media in which he works. Here's what she said. In his smartly constructed visual world, people move fluidly through time and space, eerily disconnected from one another, and shadows seem to have a mind of their own. Pointed in its commentary, Banyai's art conveys an air of quiet mystery, and his absorbing illustrations inspire more questions than answers, reminder that things are not always what they seem. I read that, and it struck me as very true to my experience of his picture books, the first of which, Zoom, was published in 1995 and spread all around the world. Many editions of that book were published. By then, Istvan was already very well known as an editorial illustrator. He had had a life in a number of different places, having been born in Hungary, then lived in Paris for a time, then from there to LA, then from there to New York. And you can see, I think, in his work the wide-ranging view of things that he has in terms not only of the geography that we recognize, but his sense of space and always opening onto something unexpected. Well, that's enough of an introduction because he's going to be talking about his and showing us his work himself. Our other illustrator sitting next to Istvan is Antoine Guilloppé, who was born and lives in France. Antoine comes from the southeast part of France, the Savoy region. He studied art in Lyon and is the illustrator and author of, by my count, 20 picture books, as well as the illustrator of at least 20 others. He looks to me to be a pretty young fellow, but he has done an awful lot. And some of his work, as you'll come to see this evening, is unlike anything which has been published in the United States. His work has yet to be published here too, but I imagine that's just a matter of time. I hope we'll be having a chance to see his work in English very soon. Okay, so now, and let me mention that Antoine is accompanied by Ellen Martyr, who is a translator. Should we get very technical and philosophical, she will leap into the breach to make sure that Antoine knows exactly what we're asking him. Though I think we will manage to keep things on a level that we can all understand. Anyway, we're very glad to have her here. So we're going to begin with Antoine's PowerPoint presentation, in which you'll get a kind of kaleidoscopic view of the work he's been doing these last several years. Antoine?
Well, good evening. This slide is to show you a lot of my works. So I'm gonna be quick, so don't worry. 10 minutes maybe. So the beginning. Well, this is one of my illustration about when I was a student. It's like the Exorcist, you know. So this is the influences, the movies, the Belgian comics, the music with Ennio Morricone and Sergio Leone, was very, very important for me. Of course, Edward Hopper, Brian De Palma. This music, I love this music. When I'm working, I always listen musics. So it's not a joke. This is the Istvan book. When I saw it in 1995, I'm not sure I want to do some children's book, but when I saw this book, I said that's what I want to do. So thank you, Istvan. It's a great pleasure to meet you today.
Thank you very much.
So this Frank Miller comics. So I love this. It's black and white works. So these are my first book when in color. You know, all these books is I was illustrator and author. So these are my books. The first. I'm trying some photographs, pastels, with the all these animals. I like to draw. I like to draw animals. So all these books in France. This kind of work. So I'm trying to work with acrylic paint. I'm sorry, aquarelle, watercolor, I think. So this book is called in English "One Scary Night." Is one of my first book in black and white. It means loup noir, black wolf. So I want to do a story without text, a very scary story, but at the end, you have to watch the book. It's not here, I'm sorry. So this character is famous to me because it's the first time I decided to create a character with a lot of albums. So I'm trying to work with the point of view. That's what you're saying? Point of view?
Yeah. With a point of view.
Le point de vue.
Un point de vue, yeah.
Okay. Les vues différentes. And all these books are made with ink and little color sometimes with the computer. So I create a boy, a girl. They get some stories. So I made some books with another author. These are some sketches. Always the presence of the forest and the trees. I like it. So this is an homage to Jaws. Very important to me. So this is a story about I don't know what to say about this.
So those are seals.
A seal, yeah, an unlucky seals. So this kind of story with a hole, a cat, and a little mouse. Always this. I want to make a suspense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Always this. I like to do that. And at the end, I like to play with the children when they read my book. At the end, there is a surprise. So a Christmas album with Paris, the jungle. So this kind of drawing with colors, always black and white. And when I create this book, The Full Moon, I have an idea. I want to the drawing has been cut by laser. So this kind of book are very special to me because this is an idea I have for a long time, but it can't work before 3 or 4 years ago for me. So now in France we can do that with the complicity of China, and I like it. So these books are very impressive. I can tell it because I'm impressive too about the results.
You're impressed.
Impressed.
Yourself.
Sorry, impressed. It impressed myself. Maybe you saw the books in the entrance. I like to play with light and shadows. So these are my futures books with a CD about the classical music around about the birds in the classical musics. It's a project with an author. It's her idea. But I make some good illustration. Wow. So this book is another one with no laser cut. A story of a boy lost in the North Pole. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's it. So this is the book One Scary Night with the Wolf in America. So in Brazil, in China, in Korea. So this kind of book travels a lot. I'm happy for that. So thank you.
Hi. So, quickly, here we are. First, this is my first ever drawing. Don't ask me how it for. The point is, this is the end of my Zoom book. On the other side, Paul Klee said, a line is a dot which went for a walk. So basically I draw, and I draw with line. I started out as an architect. I'm not a stylist. Line is a contour. It doesn't exist in nature. We are predator animals. We separate background from the foreground to have dinner. So basically we imagine a line around anything, and that's a drawing. Next. Oh, I'm from Hungary. I was 6 when the revolution happened. And the poster was commemorating whatever anniversary of it. The little car, I got it from Chicago in a Red Cross box when they sent stuff to us back in the time, and I was a car enthusiast as a kid. Next is, I think drawing, not just contour and dot goes walking, it's a map. To me, if I try to make a sense of it, to me drawing is map making. That's what I do. It helps to map my mind. As a kid, I took long bike trips across the city. Budapest is 2 cities. Buda is on the left, Pest is on the right. I'm from Pest. And I biked on the red line all the way across the bridge to see a Roman amphitheater, a small one, not as big as the Romans thing, but so I was fascinated by it. And so biking, walking around, and map making, and line. This is all drawing to me. Back to Budapest, 2 different systems. I grew up in communist bloc, came to the West. Even there, it was communism came. Previously, if you were looking for, communism was very gray and dull, so if you were looking for quality, it either your family had some old pictures. This is Franz Josef the Kaiser, that's the revolution, 12 days, and that's our first imported Soviet-educated Matyás Rákosi. He was the prime minister of the Soviet-established system. Nobody voted for him, but he won the election just like Bush. And first time. And this is the subway of Hungary, which is worth mentioning because the Americans copied it. And except this is cleaner, but it's just a one-liner. That was practically exact same as the New York subway. Actually, it's true. The New York subway was copied because they loved this cheap solution, but it looks pretty good, and the Americans went for it. Other than there is Buda and Pest upstairs. Next. Oh, this is a guy next door who had a big influence on me. He was a Hungarian pop art character, if you can say that. They ran into a lot of troubles. I was in high school, so he influenced me, he introduced me. I went there and I heard about Marcel Duchamp, I heard about Rauschenberg, and that's a couple of them, just his paintings, and you see a little bit of a communist statue which resembled the ugliness of that culture. But, so it was no TV, first of all, when I was 6, and there was no video games, so I grew up with this Austro-Hungarian era children books, which is, you may see it a little bit absolutely politically incorrect. You can see if you are sucking your thumb and the chimney sweeper comes with the coke and the rooster will eat your thumb. So this is totally, by contemporary standards, impossible. So but I love the pictures. Another one, I really love these Indian stories. Maybe it's part of my fascination with the United States or America. That's another old book, mostly history and stuff. Yeah, Hungarian, what is it? We were under the Turks, and here's a French guy. So actually we have a pasty which is a comedy on the Turkish flag. You can see the Turkish flag has a moon, and we were under the Turks for 150 years, and actually when the Turks were kicked out of Buda, the bakers made this moon-shaped crescent moon, which is croissant, and Maria Antoinette took it to Paris, and just the French bakers put butter in it. And this is like Hungarian still, right? We were shamanistic, we were not Catholic. So I think our downfall started when we started fiddling with religion. And until we were shamanistic, we were good. And then these are a couple other elements like famous Hungarian, the bicycle technology by Marcel Brauer, because he named, everybody thinks it's Kandinsky chair, because Kandinsky was a friend of Marcel Brauer, so he named it after his friend, but it's a Hungarian guy behind it. Or we are a small fish. Hungarian Culture Center hired me to do this. So back to you. That's the stuff I used to use when I was your age in school. This is me in school. A yellow submarine was a big deal. And I loved everything Japanese. I loved Klimt and the Viennese secession, and obviously they are showing very heavy-duty signs of Japanese influence, other than it's just coming back again with the Japanismo. But Yellow Submarine, Audley Birdsley, you name it. So it was in Budapest, and the Viennese Austro-Hungarian era had, because communism had really nothing to look at. So I went for retro. So basically, this is me in art school, a couple of my first early fiddlings for you, so you see how I started struggling with line. And I was interested in animation, and certain stylistic elements which caught my eye, and actually somewhat absurdist comic, how to say this? What is the New Yorker full of comics? Not comics.
Cartoons?
Cartoons. I think I have a cartoonist vein in me somewhere. And then going forward, this is Unicum is a Hungarian drink. I had a great poster for it before the communist regime. And so I went for old posters, either Lautrec or Klimt or you name it, but nothing was present, so I went for retro. So all my posters up there, which were actually presented in the Norman exhibit, went for this. Also, I did a 6 minutes animation film on my own, all about food, and a guy eats everything, and finally he gets eaten. He grows out of the city and eats everything randomly in the city, and eats the sun and burns down to an omelette, and they serve him to the next guest. And then, then here we are, this French guy, René Laloux, loved my previous animation film, and hired me to imitate Möbius, so I ended up in France, which we emigrated and never went back to Hungary. So here we are, the first hotel we ever been, and my son and wife came to visit me, and we decided not to go home. From here, it's a little bit a neurosis. So you can see this is a little bit of a random sketch out of my mindset at the time. So when you leave a place, they take your passport, you have to go every 3 months to get the carte de séjour, and it's not an easy moment. You can't legally work, you have a 6-year-old to start school, and you are daddy. So it's sort of like this. You know what I mean? You are a little bit wondering where the hell I am, what makes sense. Oh. And that's part of the thing, because you have to sort out the bullshit from reality in order to survive. So basically, you ask yourself, what's the point? What am I going to do here, really? So what's worth really drawing that much? So reality hits you, and that's pretty much what my drawing style. I started looking back historically, so all right, what can we do with this whole thing? What is language? What means anything? Even semiotic terms. So basically, at the meantime, you have to make a living, so I drew fashion, which is totally ridiculous. I had to draw this is for GQ England, 50 things what man not supposed to do. So I am a commercial illustrator. Nothing is farther from bookmaking. Bookmaking these are little spots for Atlantic Monthly. These are, on the right side, it's a movie comp. The other was for George Clinton Funk. A poster. So these are early California works. You can see Mickey Mouse country and European influences, and California had a very playful, esoteric, almost not really psychedelic, but dripping ice cream. I don't know how to explain it to you. Superficial, but eye-catching, eye candy. That had a big impact on me. At the meantime, this sorting out what means anything goes on, right? So I'm living in this forest of meaningless zillions of stuff. So what do you really draw is very important. So there are very basic things like metabolism, thank God, something you can really pinpoint. And then things start a little bit, I don't know, clarify in my head, and from here, you know, you wonder about things, what is balance, or what is bone, you know, in an animal. I used to watch Kitty, and I'm wondering where is his toe, or from here, whatever. So I like to think a little bit odd. I wouldn't say outside the box, but not the usual way. I got lucky, I got absolute Istvan to brag about, or I did American illustrations, thank you, Mark, and I did Zoom for New York Magazine. No, I illustrated for everybody, really, almost. A lot of newspapers, a lot of magazines. First was New Yorker after 9/11. Everything was no in New York, so I did that. They didn't publish it. The second is about the end of publishing. That's for Atlantic. This is you know who, and that was before Obama won the election. The Lincoln Memorial was celebrated. It was for New Yorker. These are drawings. I don't know. The middle is Tatu is a kind of lesbian Russian duo who sings. And since I'm from Eastern Europe, obviously, I got this assignment. The first was more about evolution and who is it, Darwin. And this is art collector for GQ magazine on the right side. This is social issues. I used to do for Progressive magazine. And this is for a Canadian paper, working, enjoy jobs. This is for writers, occupy yourself. These guys who are making, deciding about our fate meet in Davos, and they do not much there except chasing women. And that was true, that was the article about. And the internet we live in, where you are watched, every move of yours, they can send, oh, here we are, so how safe you are, you know, maybe you're walking with the predator, you never know. At the meantime, we have these Disney-esque dreams, news every time, idiotic stuff. Richard III is sleeping under the parking lot for New York. And so I don't know, I draw all kinds of stuff. New Yorker covers, I did a few, not that many, I was very brilliant, but I had a few, and the left one was when Janet Jackson, I think, Janet Jackson? Her breast fell out of whatever. And that was that, yeah. Actually, I came from Paris, Antoine, and I noticed that people are still kissing on the street when I was a kid in Budapest. So in Paris, I see people kissing. I came back to New York, I never seen anybody kissing. So I did a kiss cover, and it suddenly became a pretty popular thing. I figured that New Yorker became rather a trend, so that's why I tried to indicate, you know, it's almost like a T-shirt. You have to have it, that means something. But I don't know, it's not exactly the same what it was meant to be to begin with. Am I correct? I don't know. Anyway, so this, which one do you think was printed, the left or right?
Right.
Yeah, you got it, that's right. There was too much bottom. And this, that's my favorite in left that never won. I was upset about it. That was for an Oscar when the, boy, how old I am, but that was when the Titanic got an Oscar. So I was extremely proud to put the Oscar down to the mud. And this is obviously the global warming. This is something I tried to impress them with, but didn't quite fly, neither of them. And I work for whatever, New York Times, drawing faces, or some examples of that. When the psychiatrist is falling asleep on you. So you can see, I get a lot of sex assignments. I draw sexy women, so people ask me all the time, so it's very different takes on the same thing. Because basically what it is like sex and killing. Frankly, if you watch TV, what do you see? A bunch of killing and not very good sex in American movies, I have to say, but basically, I think the whole life is back to the point. What is it all about? I think that's pretty much what we do. We kill each other and we chase a woman. And this is war, right? Back to the killing. I did the first one for Muslim democracy, and these Rumsfeld and Bush and Cheney running out like old colonizers, new target to hunt. That was after the towers came down, and we just have to keep shopping. So that's the anti-war poster of mine is indicating you can get all the nice brands, just keep shopping, as Bush said it. In the meantime, the real bloody stuff is just sort of news. Nobody takes it seriously. We are talking about regime change all the time. We build other countries, we don't have roads, but they get the money. Anyways, and this bank bailing out, and we are going broke. And when I grew up, they said the workers of the world will unite, and that was very scary. Now I can see the bankers unite rather than the workers. The bankers of the world united, really. And then here we are, playing with words. So I don't know, I try to draw whatever comes to mind. This one was, I was hired, that was the end of my New York Times career, I guess. Yeah, they hired me about this, and oh, even the machine doesn't like to take it. Yeah, they can send a drone after us now, and everybody's an open book. Even serial killers are writing books. So I get assignments, just hair stands up on my back. And that was about Los Angeles, the falling infrastructure, and pretty much the drama leaving the... Today is not easy to leave. I'm glad I'm old. I feel sorry for young kids. I have a son myself. So it's not easy to be young today, I think. And this is the political commerce which nobody wanted, but I was thinking about it. And this is other side. So I did other side when Bush was in, nobody asked questions about nothing. And truly, I really tried to show that things have different sides. You don't have to walk around, you just page in the book and you can see the same thing from another angle. That was the whole idea. I never seen anybody doing it before, so I tried to do it myself first. So that was it. When I was done, the last minute, the publisher gave me a bunch of notes, but I ignored them all. That was another book. It's about Ram. It starts with a dot, and a dot. This is all about dreaming up the characters of the fairy tale. They come alive from that dot as an evolution. At the end, over there, the last page would be Once Upon a Time. And we don't see the story anymore. It's just getting from the dot to creating the characters who will play out. So I do picture books, no words. So that would be just an evolutionary continuity until all the characters are born or come alive, and the story starts in your head later. Whatever. The Zoom was, everybody knows Zoom. Zoom was interesting to me for a while because this really says it. If you think about it, that's possible that maybe the whole universe is one particle if you think about it. Because if you drop a stone in a pond and you make a little gate and the waves come out and you open 2 more gates and more waves come out, it's the same wave, isn't it? So maybe that could be where we are all energy resolutions lower and lower. So maybe, as they said, it depends how you look at it. What we see, they said it is not an it until it's an observed it. And if you can see a particle or wave, who cares what it is? Nobody knows. Zoom. There's no center of anything, no fringe of anything. I'm an emigre. I'm no longer in the Eastern Bloc, not in the West. I'm everywhere but nowhere. So I think the whole universe is a hoax. And I keep trying to make sense. Sometimes I get better days than other times. And that's it, folks. See you later.
All right. Well, that's a lot to take in, isn't it? That was good. No, it was fascinating. So a few questions, and then we'll have questions from the audience. So Antoine, I was reading a little bit about the place where you grew up, the city of Chambéry, right? And a famous landmark there is a fountain with 4 elephants. And because you draw so many animals. I wondered if that was something that, as a child, particularly fascinated you.
Yeah, probably. When I was young, I'm looking a lot of books, documentary books about the animals, and I like to observe it, and it's fascinating to me. So that's why, probably, it's why I'm drawing that now.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Africa or to the places
Never.
where some of those animals that you
never.
draw live?
No,
Huh.
I've never been there.
So they're all animals in your imagination, then?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to go in Africa, but I don't have time.
Yeah. What happens when you're faced with a blank page? What do you do to get started?
Oh, excuse me.
Alors, qu'est-ce qui t'arrive quand tu es devant une page blanche et quel est le processus?
I'm crying.
You're crying. Oh.
Well, in fact, sorry, je ne dessine pas tant que j'ai pas d'idée.
So I don't start drawing until I have ideas.
I never start a drawing before. Sometimes I think during 3 days, 4 days. There's a lot of things happen here, and when I get an idea, I'm starting to draw.
So in other words, when you're drawing, it's an image that already exists in a way, and you're just, in a way, realizing it, bringing it out of your mind into the paper.
I have to je dois concrétiser mon idée. C'est pour ça que je me mets à dessiner.
So I need to make my idea concrete, more concrete than what I have in mind, and that's how and when I start drawing.
I see. Yeah. Istvan, what about you? I interviewed William Steig once, and he said that his favorite way of drawing was to look at a piece of paper and just put a mark down on it, and then sort of see where it led. And that reminds me a little bit of what you're saying about making maps of things, because in a way it's like taking a trip on the page. Do you look at it that way?
It could be both. No, I lost my microphone, so maybe hold it. Well, can you hear me? Yeah.
Maybe not.
At doodling, oh, it's too loud, huh?
But it's good.
Oh,
However,
it's good. It's good here. Huh? It's good. Yeah, the doodling. I'm sorry. Doodling is good sometimes. If I'm nervous, I doodle, but very little use of it really, other than it's comforting. I agree with him. An idea is good. Good to have an idea and chase that. And other than that, the white paper is scary because until you touch it, when you touch it, you are doomed. Because you already created a coordinate, and you have to go from there, and everything is related to this, and how far you go, and what is it going to be. So it starts building around it, and so you already made a decision. So until it's open, until everything possible, and suddenly nothing is possible just according to this. It's like getting married. You know, when you have one point, then you're with that.
So you feel.
So you have to get the best out of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm married a long time, so I know.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like, so in a way, it sounds like you feel committed to a drawing once you get started. It's not like you can just toss it away and start again.
There are better days than others, but yeah, you try. Actually, even if you're whatever old I am, there are days when I'm really worried that I can't draw today. And I do really shitty stuff. And some days it really comes fluid. I don't know. Seriously. As maybe my son. Sorry, it's relatively related. He worked with a French guy at Columbia when he was in college, and they were investigating the sleeping patterns of little rodents. And biologically, we are 25-hour evolutionary program, 25 hours, not 24 hours. So maybe when I'm in a 25th hour, I can't draw. Serious. So there are days, even if I want to, I have a deadline, and I will give them some crappy stuff, but I just do really no good.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised a moment ago when you said that you're not a stylist, because it seems to me the way you draw is instantly recognizable.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think of myself, I'm not a stylist, because I mean, even in the audience, I don't want to name anybody, but yeah, when a lot of people have a sensibility. I've been impressed by a lot of things. Just never came naturally to me to really. I mean, Art Nouveau, I liked something about it because it's such a symbolic element to it, and for a while I was into that. Then I got other influences, comics mostly in American, because the Communist bloc wasn't very much around. And then here I rather content driven, because they tell me what I read a story or whatever I have to illustrate. And then it's up to me really what cliche I can team this up with, or call an existing image, or put a twist on it, or take it a step farther, hopefully, or whatever. But I'm not natural born stylist like Mondrian or I don't know who to name. Even Heinz Edelman. Heinz Edelman had this very inborn capacity to reinvent the Beatles characters in that, right? So I wouldn't be able to do that. That's what I mean. Or Birdsley. He drew only 5 years, and it's mind-boggling. This guy was, you know, how a very short career he had, and he made it bingo. And so is Schiele, right? Schiele died 29, and these guys really knew. They succeeded like a, you know, like a, right? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That something, and maybe it's a different neurosis which I don't have.
Yeah.
I just like drawing, and so I like elegance.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys see that. I don't know. It's not a conscious decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Antoine, what about you? Did you spend time looking for a style for a visual way of representation that felt like really your own?
Yeah, sure. When I was a student, I'm trying a lot of things, and after when I came out from the school, I began with the acrylic style with paint, and well, I'm not very comfortable with these techniques, so I'm trying the ink, and I remember that's what I like. When I like to read books like comics by Frank Miller or Hugo Pratt in France. So today I think I find my style, but I'm not sure. The life is long, so
Sure.
so sometimes when I get an idea for young children, sometimes I can take the pastels, and for another story. Maybe it's better with ink, so it depends of my story, in fact.
In this country, it seems the mantra is the more color, the better for picture books, and you sometimes like to work in black and white, and I wonder if that's something which is remarked on in France, or if it's seen as not as unusual as it perhaps would be here?
Well, it's not so usual in France, but another artist drawing with a black and white style, but that's what I like. So it's my problem.
Yeah, well, it's not a problem at all.
It's not a problem.
I mean, in the 90s, Chris Van Allsburg in this country began doing books in black and white, and they really stood out partly for that reason, because there was nothing being done anything like that, and so it was just almost like the turn of the wheel, you know, the next cycle where maybe it was time again to have pictures in black and white.
Sure, I don't know. My future book, there's more colors, but it depends of my story.
Yeah,
that's
I
I see
really
it.
don't mean that as a criticism, but it strikes out. It stands out as being different from what many people would expect from picture books these days.
Excuse me.
Donc c'est vraiment en fait l'utilisation du noir et blanc dans le bon sens du terme,
Oui.
en gros comme quelque chose d'original, une méthode
Exactly.
originale.
Yeah.
Before these books, I wasn't known in France, but when the first book, Black Wolf, One Scary Night,
Yeah.
This book changed everything for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
after, that's what I like. So I continue my mon chemin.
I continued my way, my path.
my way.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to ask you a little bit more about the cutouts in your books. You describe it in your slide presentation as discovery. I mean, was it partly the discovery that it was technically possible to do that these days? Or were you, I'm curious, were you looking at things like Indonesian shadow puppets, which they remind me a little bit of, or Chinese paper cuts, or
yes, but
or
of
what?
course
Yeah.
But the French publishers don't know exactly how it's possible with the machine. Because in China or in Indonesia, they're doing like handmade.
Yeah.
So I don't want to cut it myself. I want a machine to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for a few years, and after when I meet the French publisher Gauthier Langros, I ask her if it's possible now. She doesn't know. She asked to the printer, and we made an essay, a test. Sorry, we made a test, and when we saw the test, she asked me what can we do. So I said we're doing a book. I want to make a book because this results is exactly what I have in my head. Sorry. With the light, you know, with this kind of light, you can play with the really with the shadows, and that's my pleasure. And I want the children to play with this book. They can make move the animals and the background, the jungle, and you can have a very nice moment to read this book. So it was my idea at the beginning.
Sure. Well, it's almost like a tabletop theater, like a little small theater.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when I was before I wasn't in Paris, and when you in the evening in Paris, when you've got the boats on the La Seine,
Yeah.
the lights come on the comment on dit sur les façades des murs.
On the facades of the buildings.
Les bateaux mouches, je sais pas comment on dit bateau mouche.
The cruising boats or the
cruising
bateau
boats
mouche
in the evening, they got lights
bateau mouche
on the walls, and when they move, they move all the shadows on the walls.
Oh, I see.
I love that. So I want to do that on the book.
I see. Yeah. Well, Istvan, you're very interested in shadows too, aren't you? And it seems to me that you're always kind of doing everything you can with line to make the page something other than a flat surface.
Yeah, I like the shadow.
You'll
Actually,
agree to that.
Let's make this answer very short.
Yeah.
Last
Okay.
time I stepped over the limit.
Let me read you something that Eric Carle said. I had asked him why he was putting holes in the Very Hungry Caterpillar, what he wanted to accomplish by that. And he said, I thought of the holes primarily as a design element. I always try to squeeze as much as possible out of the paper. I don't want just a plain sheet of paper. I want to change that flat sheet any way I can. Is that a sentiment that you can identify with in some way?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to be the strong silent type. I can see that. Tell me what, for you, the difference of the experience between doing a picture book is as compared to the other kinds of work where you're doing one image,
Well, a lot of difference.
you know, on an assignment. Yeah. Tell us about that.
I mean, every way is different. It's my idea, first of all. I mean, when you illustrate, the subject is not yours. So they want your interpretation, supposedly, but the subject is given.
Yeah.
The book, I'm free to choose the subject, so that's total freedom in a way. And it's probably even more difficult because you have to decide about everything. But it's a complex thing, and a book is, you know, you fold up a paper, 36 pages, so that has a format. It's you have that long, you know. Also, animation was always interesting. So I think Zoom was somewhat my interest in animation somewhere is in it. The sequence. Not so much of a story. All my books are really stories.
Right. Yeah, they're more like concepts.
Yeah, it's just like image becomes part of an artist's image, an accident, and I start playing with it. Actually, it's true because I did an illustration for somebody. Had to draw an architect who is looking at a model on the table, and then I was hanging on my wall for a long time. I looked at it, and hey, what happens if this guy looking at the thing is on a boat, and you know, and a boat is on the sign, and whatever, and kept adding, and then the different sequences finally ended up as in short. Yeah, there is a little connection. An accidental, forgotten drawing of my daily bread and butter existence contributed to this.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to say that under slightly different circumstances, you might have been the illustrator here from representing France, right?
Yes.
Istvan, you want to talk about that? You lived in Paris for a while, but were unable to get French citizenship, weren't you?
I'm so sorry?
You lived in France, but ended up not getting French citizenship, so you came here instead.
Yeah, talk about that. No, it's I wouldn't. But yeah, it was interesting, and I loved it. And visited Paris a few times after that, and always love it. I think it's one of the most beautiful city in the world. Luckily, never was really bombed and all that, so you can see what a city could look like. It's not totally, you know, flattened. And other than a lot of other couleurs of the French life, which you can enjoy a little decadence, other than beauty. And people are very friendly. Right? That's right. Yeah, that's true. I always had fun in France. They're very friendly. With me. Actually, there's the guy told me, oh, they're never going to invite you in their house, and that's not true. They do.
Was there someone in your life who was a mentor, who guided you into your career?
In Hungary or in France?
Either.
Actually, in France, I
really
met
made a big
Roland
impression
Topor.
on you.
I'm one of the few guys who met live with Roland Topor because the film director René Laloux did a film with Roland Topor before. The film I was working on. So then the next film was designed by Möbius. Yeah. So I met with Möbius and I met with Roland Topor. And Topor was very nice. My son was 6 years old. He gave him toy soldiers. He walked up to his apartment. He was shaving. So we were really good terms.
Is there something that he had told you?
It's even more than in America I ever experienced. I don't know any American illustrator where my son would go up and he's shaving and the door is open and it's, you know what I mean? In America it's more formal. You have to make an appointment. Yeah. Hello, may I come? And over there is just, you walk in. That was it, really. He liked me and that was it.
Was there something that you learned from him that was particularly valuable?
Oh yeah, he said that I'm crazy to come to the United States. If I think Europe is bad, that's the purgatorium. United States is the hell. Exact quote.
So you came forearmed and forewarned.
I didn't believe him at the time. No, I think about him a lot.
Yeah. So Antoine, what about you? Did you have someone who guided you into your career, would you say?
Probably the comics artist, like Gottlieb. I don't know if you know him in America. Jean Giraud, Moebius, I love his work. So Hermann, like I show you, and a lot of films or movies, a lot of movies.
So influences more so than individual and personal encounters with teachers, or
not really. No, no, nobody told me to do this job.
Yeah.
In my family, nobody drawing. So
yeah, I guess that's the usual way, isn't it? An artist has to go against the grain to some extent of what is expected.
Yeah, so I don't know where it's come from.
Yeah. Did you always want to do children's books, or did you have another art form in mind?
When I came in the school, I want to do some comics book, but I discover a lot of new children's books. So in my mind, I think there was Babar or Bécassine in France. So a little boring. So I don't want to do that. But when I saw Zoom,
Okay.
when I saw this book and
Yeah.
another one, but this one is really like a déclic.
Like it clicked when I saw that book. It really clicked.
Really.
I was gonna.
So it seems to me a good way to tell stories and by the angle. So I. Oh boy. It's your fault. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
And of
I'm
course,
honored.
it had the
Please.
advantage of being a visual book, so it could travel, couldn't it? It didn't have the barrier of a language that needed to be translated.
Oh, that's a bonus, isn't it? Nothing
Yeah.
to translate. Not one English word is wasted on. Yeah, it's interesting because, yeah, it's true actually, because English is my second language. I'm not very eloquent in English. Not to even mention trying to write anything, boy, forget it. So I went for the picture.
Okay. I imagine someone here has a question they'd like to ask. Would you just want to raise your hand? And I see we have microphones here, which could help. Anybody want to ask a question?
That's good, we can go home now.
Or you could just shout out. You don't have to use the microphone.
I have a question.
Yes.
So were there any production, were there moments in testing out how to print your books, production sort of nightmares? It must have been very hard for them to get it right for you to match what your done books might have been like? Or did you have some exceptional printer that we should know of that got it right the first time? Or what was the adventure like in terms of taking your dummy and having the printer actually realize it and make it something that would be tolerable cost-wise?
So let me just repeat the question. I think it's about the special books with all the cutouts and how hard it was to actually make a book like that work in the real world.
Did you see many revisions of the prototype back and forth, or did they actually manage to get that fine detail?
No, it was very easy. In fact, I gave one draw to my publisher. She asking to the printer, and they send me back the results, and it was very easy. This is the books are sont les livres les plus faciles que j'ai eu à faire.
Those are actually the books that were the easiest for me to make. Out of all the books I made, were the easiest.
It's strange, but it's like that. So, but it cost a lot of money to do this kind of book. So I can do few books as much in 1 year. So I have to wait 1 year and after one book by year because it's too
Costly?
share.
Too costly? Too expensive?
Sorry.
Another question. Yes.
For Istvan, when you work for an American audience, readers, I would say, do you adapt your sense of humor to your readers? Or when you work for European readers, do you change the way you think about your work? Does your sense of humor adapt to your audience, to your readers?
Let me just repeat the question. Does Istvan adopt his sense of humor to the country for whom he's producing a particular piece of work? Or does it remain the same?
Oh, Frank, I don't know who invented the microphone. But, well, I work 95% for American audiences. When I work for British Esquire, Japanese Playboy, some Canadian papers, and Jean-Michel Jarre in France, who did a little music video for him. That was the only time I really let it go a little bit, because in America you have to drive a car with a foot on a brake. That's how you accelerate, backwards. And says, and how the time goes on, maybe I'm getting older, but it's more and more, no, can't do that, can't do this. Europe is more free, things exist in their brain in different contexts. More sexuality is not such a big taboo, and freedom of speech is more accepted. You can touch subject matters which in the United States, some reason editors don't want to touch with a 6-foot pole. That's true. Sadly, I don't work with them enough. But here, for instance, just in one sentence that says it, when Jean-Michel Jarre came up and I showed him a few things, and I thought I'd really tried hard to break the mold here, you know, whatever my built-in, because if you censor it all the time, day by day, and it sort of gets into your system. So it's truly, you don't even notice it, but you're already telling yourself, oh, don't do that, don't do this. And I tried a little bit, you know, get away from it. They came up, they looked at it, hey, that's pretty good, this, that. Why don't you give us more? Why don't you give us more? That's what they told me. That's possible. So this is truly a subject, right? It's some reason, sadly, because I came here for freedom, and some reason, I don't know, Americans are taking themselves super seriously, or they have another agenda, they don't want to tell me why, but they just don't want to say what it is. And so everything is really becoming a semiotic game and double standards and hypocrisy and all the rest. And it's really mediocre melange, you know, you sit in this lukewarm, nothing really. I like jokes, and it's very hard to crack a joke. Europe and Asia, actually, even working with Playboy in Japan was much liberating. And working with English Esquire was fun. Yeah.
No. I think America is still a puritanical country in some ways.
It seems that way.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's kind of amazing to think so much has happened since those days, but yeah. What you're describing
I think that could be a full night to discuss it.
Yeah.
There's so much crap we you know, have to, we could illustrate it infinite amount of stories.
Yeah. And
you're even a little worried now to say anything because they may accuse you of something. And you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's truly, it's becoming real. Certainly for me, who grew up with home security, so to speak, because I come from a communist bloc, we had home security. You had a typewriter, they had to have an alphabet printed on your typewriter so to make sure you don't print samizdats. We are here now in this setting, you know. Kind of a similar way, they can, you make a phone call, they know you know what I mean? And this is sort of strange to me. I'm not quite exactly, I didn't come here for this. Well, that's my fate. You know what I mean? I can never escape. But I wish America would be a little more relaxed about it because they have all the, so much you can do. So hopefully we're not going to be nuts, because that's scary. And working in this environment, not to mention that the business actually, first we had to fight the photographers. So in the 90s, the photographers really, they were credited for, I mean, every magazine cover suddenly was photography. And then only the New Yorker left, which was Illustrator. And then the illustrations are disappearing. So it's really, I don't know where they see drawings, because it seems like everyone is after drawings. And they think it's too brainy and it's too, and even children books. You see so many horrible children books out there. If you think about it, they're like trash. So they're bad design, stupid idea, people can't draw, the colors are awful. Admit it, man. I mean, this is like visiting you know what I mean, a dump site. It's not. It's not my words. Actually, there was a Colbert Lust report with Maurice Sendak. If anyone happened to see it.
Sure.
Yeah, the guy maybe he thought he's going to drop that anyway. He said the truth, but actually true. It's exactly. And so I wish. And you look at his work. I mean, and it's beautifully done, and it's a beautiful design. So I think that at least some of us still have aspirations to do a quality illustrated, relatively about something, where's the time to look at book? Yeah. Can we have that, please?
Yeah. No, I mean, I do see that more people who focused on editorial illustration in the past, as they see that less and less of that work is available, have migrated to the picture book world. And I see a lot of really great talent beginning to make picture books. So I think we may actually be in a pretty good time now.
And what complicates it is the marketing department, because not just you, then you have a baby, and you take it to there, you know? And they say, we don't want this brown eye, we want blue eye, and we want one leg and three arms.
I know. I've heard
Suddenly,
that often.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They alter your baby.
Yeah.
And then the marketing department says something about it, and then finally we'll leave with a crocodile or a snake. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
really, or they don't want to hear about it at all. They say, we absolutely convinced this is not going to sell. How do they know? I'd like to print 2 books. One is which, you know, do it my way, and one do it their way. And let's see who sells more copies. Can we try? Seriously. Yeah.
Huh.
But we can't, you see?
Yeah. Antoine, what is it like to publish a picture book in France now? Are most of them purchased in independent bookstores, or do the libraries buy most of the picture books, or where do they go when they're published?
In the libraries.
Mm-hmm.
In the libraries, there
Bookstores.
are a lot. Bookstores, sorry.
Yeah.
In the bookstores, there's a lot of bookstores in Paris and in France in general. So,
is it not just the big chain stores like we have here? Are there still many
no, there's
smaller
a lot
bookstores? There
of
are.
independent
I see.
bookstores.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of.
That's good, because then you have a lot of different people making independent judgments about books,
Yeah.
and then recommending them, which is how it
Really, yes.
isn't. It isn't like that so much as here as it used to be.
I've been in New York for 10 days.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of bookstores.
No.
I'm looking for them.
I know. They used to be
I
everywhere.
saw Barnes
Yeah.
and Nobles.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. But I don't see another one.
So the same thing has not happened in France, it sounds like.
It began.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little.
A little bit. Yeah. More questions? I think we have time for a few more. Yes.
So it's a two-part question to Istvan. Long time ago, you showed me a lot of book dummies that you created over the years of kids book, and I think one was the other side, but you have like tons more that haven't been published. So the first question is, are there more kids book in the future? And the second part of the question is, I know you're super busy, and like, you know, a lot of the illustrators like us, like, we have problems finding time to do our personal work, and I'm amazed that you have time to create all these dummies or personal drawings, and I want to know how you find time or create time to do your personal things outside of work.
So let me just repeat the question. This woman has seen many dummies for other picture books by Istvan, which have not yet been published. Will we see more books by him in the future? And where does he find the time to do everything that he does?
Thank you. Quick question in the back. Is this a question you addressed me or both of us?
For you.
It's for me? Oh. Yeah, it was more difficult when I was more busy, and it's true. And also this, you do it when you have time and when you are, also it's also difficult because usually when you're busy with commercial work, then you get great ideas, and when you finally have time and you don't have great ideas. That's pretty much what I think. It's not easy, yeah. I have some ideas. Even Peter is here, we tried something together. So a few things are either started or developed to some degree, or there are some almost done. And no, I found it very difficult, the market, to sell anything here in the United States, and they don't want to talk to me anymore. I happen to manage myself, but now you have to have an agent. So I'm in the process of finding one, but nobody wants to represent me because there are no words in my books. And all the agents are literary people, believe it or not. It's ridiculous. I mean, I want people, and I don't name them now, but they are not little people. They are well-known writers in the United States who seriously could help me, and I wonder, begging them to help me, please, give me a good agent. And it's very difficult because nobody handles, so to speak, what I do. So I'm really a very segmented little thing on the side. I know in Japan, a picture book is even a word for it, one word for it, right? And because they told me that, and there's a big culture for it. Here is a weird thing, nobody knows what to do with it, you know. Or is it going to sell? Back to the point, yeah, it's difficult to work sometimes when I get carried away with my own work, then the clients are suffering, and when the clients are, you know what I mean, my project suffers. And sometimes nothing happens and I'm angry. Or then sometimes I give up and for a year I don't touch it. And there are things which now sit in the drawer and who gives a damn. So really, I don't know anymore. I would love to do good books. That's just what I said, or whatever I think is interesting. But they're very difficult to communicate. So it's how the years go on, and this marketplace is very weird. I don't find access. So actually, maybe I should step out of the cell, but it's a different question. So, but it's interesting because it's discouraging. So that sort of slowed me down. It took me to the fringe that I give up. I did 4 books, that's enough. So many people die and never make one. So, you know, I had 4 books and one of them actually became a bestseller. It's pretty good. And God, who cares? The word has enough famous people. Maybe I'm not that ambitious. But frankly, I wouldn't mind to make 1 more book, maybe. I have an idea for it. But just can't find the partner. I could push it around on the side because no more, yeah, I could handle both. But the best, I would actually, hello everybody. Everybody wants to adopt me. I'm up for adoption. So finally, I don't have to work. I would answer half of your questions, so I no longer have to do assignments. I could just care about my private, personal projects. Any rich woman in the audience, please put your hands up. I'm here.
Okay.
And even though I'm married, but we work it out. And that's it. From there, I'm just going to sail on the freedom of.
Okay. All right. I think there's a question in the back there. Maybe that'll be the last one. Then we'll go. I'll have a drink and talk outside. Yeah. The children's audience, and how has it changed? Okay, is that something?
Me or him?
I don't know. Is it for both? Antoine, can you say something about what you know about your young audience, what they're like, and are they changing in some way over time?
Ouais, probably. But quand j'écris une histoire, quand je raconte une histoire avec les dessins,
when I write a story, when I tell a story in drawing,
je ne réfléchis pas tout de suite au public.
I don't immediately think about the audience.
Parce que je ne veux pas me contraindre à dessiner que pour les enfants.
Because I don't want to restrain myself to draw only for children.
I am an adult. So I want to make the book. I love my book, and I want to. It's a very hard question, but les enfants français.
The French children
commencent à avoir des iPads, beaucoup de jeux vidéo.
Yeah, start getting all those iPads, play with video games.
C'est vrai que les intéresser par un livre,
and it's true that to have them be interested in a book,
ça devient difficile.
Is becoming difficult, is becoming challenging.
C'est pour ça qu'il faut trouver des nouvelles idées visuelles.
That's why one has to come up with new and innovative visual ideas.
Et par exemple, ces livres-là.
For example, those books.
Il y a le plaisir aussi de l'objet.
It's also, about the pleasure of the object itself. Not just the story.
The smell, a book, it's a book. So, j'essaye d'intéresser les enfants encore avec l'objet livre.
So I really try to get the children interested by the book as an object also.
Mais c'est en train de changer, c'est sûr.
But this is really changing for sure with
the audience. They're going to change, that's sure.
Well, I think this is the real challenge right now, and why picture books are at such an interesting moment, because every artist has to think in the way that you are thinking how can we make a physical book be something that can't be better in digital form or any other form?
Oui, un livre en noir et blanc sans texte.
A book black and white with no text.
L'enfant va quand même s'arrêter, il va être surpris.
The child
par la forme.
is actually going to be surprised by the format, by the form, by the shape of it. It's going to surprise him.
Il peut le rejeter aussi, parce qu'il n'y a pas d'écrit,
But because there's no story, no writing, no text, he may as well also reject it. One never knows.
I would add something, if you allow me to say something. It just occurred to me. Back to your question, we don't think in terms of children. It's an interesting phenomenon. They say artist is working to make the world a better place. Bullshit. An artist works for himself. An artist struggles with his own limitations. Second, if you're lucky, and look at me, I'm an old fart, but I'm still a child. So you don't need a child. A child can be 3, 5 years old. If you have a child, you could see some children are incredibly intelligent, and they just came out of the egg. Super smart, smarter than adults. So don't look down on children. Children are adults, and some adults are worse than children. So we all have a child in us, right? So if I work for myself, I serve my child, and hopefully another child will resonate. So there is no division here, adults, children. No, man, it's the same thing. We are all children. Come on. Children are smart. That's the problem. We forget to be children. We have to be playful. Maybe the adult world would be much better if adults would be more playful, right? That's the problem. I think we all should be children.
Sometimes in the book
Back to
fair,
your question.
les parents regardent les livres sans texte, et si l'enfant regarde le livre sans texte, ils disent à leur enfant, viens, on va d'abord prendre un livre où il y a une vraie histoire.
So sometimes, in book fairs, I am struck by parents flipping through the pages of a book without any text. And if they actually, and I'm struck by the fact that if the children are interested by the book that they're flipping through without text, they'll, just to be more comfortable, tell the children, let's first go see the books that have stories and text written in them.
A real story.
A real story.
It's absurd.
And then we'll, take a look at those ones. But let's actually move to the books with a story and with text.
Well, some people are made nervous by pictures. They don't know what to think of them. Yeah.
Because they don't know how to play.
They don't.
Or the book is bad.
Yeah. Well.
But I've seen bad books.
Not on this stage, though. I think you have both made really wonderful books, and I think we look forward to this last book that you're going to make, and to whatever your next book is.
That is my posthumous interview.
Thank you both for being here, and for helping us in this conversation, and thank you all for coming. I hope you can stay on and have a glass of wine with us and take a look at their books up close. Thank you very much.